Whoa, hi, wow. So, you're going to Japan, or you want to go to Japan, and it must be incredibly scary in some capacity and very exciting at the same time. And I understand that you're in the same boat as me because I'm also going to Japan to study for half a year. I'm currently somewhere in the middle of the process, not in Japan yet, but also with all the preparations pretty much underway. So let me bestow upon you my divine wisdom, or rather the wisdom of my friends, and give you some advice or some pointers on how to prepare for your studies in Japan.
Peter in Japan.
First of all, I'd like to start with probably the most obvious thing, and that is learn the language, right? And let's be real here. You probably already thought about this. I mean, the popularity of Learn Japanese videos and the size of the Learn Japanese subreddit already kind of speaks for itself. It's not really the question of if, but rather how. So let me give you a few things there. If you do some digging in the language learning community, you'll probably end up finding refall.la quite soon, and I can personally testify that this is really the way to go. Personally, I've been learning this for quite a few months now. The results really are crazy in some way. I mean, it still takes a shit ton of effort and you really have to work at it, but it's not the 10 years of language learning that people pretend it should be. So if you don't know how immersion works, it's basically just you watch a shit ton of shows, and through actively watching those shows and trying to figure out how the language works, you start to notice things like, hey, these words are repeated a whole lot, or hey, they phrase things like this. And it's a very subconscious process, but at the same time very conscious. So you can quicken this process by actually taking the words that you find in your immersion and making memory cards from them. And you use a software like Anki for that. It really just comes down to how much stuff can you watch in Japanese. So if you're into anime, you can watch anime. If you're into other types of shows, just watch them with the Japanese dub. Other types of immersion. Whatever works for you and whatever keeps you actually immersing, because that's really the most important thing. Consistency. The more consistent you can stay throughout your journey, the best your results are going to be. If you can just slip in a few minutes or even hours of Japanese immersion, eventually you'll just get the results you want. I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, wow, interacting with the language that you're trying to learn is actually going to help you learn the language. True groundbreaking stuff right there. If you want to know more about that, you can check out the link in the description to refall.la. You'll get a lot, like a shit ton of paperwork. You'll get a lot of paperwork, and this can be incredibly intimidating. I know a lot of my classmates who went to Japan, they really got scared of just the sheer amount of things that they needed to get. And the wording in Japanese documents is also very strict and official, which makes it incredibly intimidating. Don't be intimidated. Fill it in how you think it must be done. Check it with your university. They're usually very inclined to help you with these things. I know I at least did. The paperwork ended up not being as intimidating as I first thought it to be. Communicating with your university can really help with that. And number 3, for me, it really is keep yourself motivated. So the process of actually preparing for Japan will probably take around a year. So that's quite a long time. And throughout that whole time, you have to prepare a lot of things. And that can be very taxing. And personally, I find it very important to try to keep myself motivated. So there are a lot of channels that cover Japan. I mean, Abroad in Japan is one of the biggest ones. Then you've got CDog VA, you've got Joey, and many other channels that cover Japan as a country, the culture, and just keep watching those things. Sometimes it even counts as immersion. I mean, you can hear a lot of Japanese in these videos, but most importantly, it actually sparks some interest again in why you want to go here, especially if you're struggling with your Japanese studies. But don't take my word for it. I mean, I haven't even been to Japan yet, but you can take the word of these guys. They've actually been there and come back and experienced the entire process, and they can say a lot more about how their experience was preparing for Japan.
Well, there was a lot to prepare. It was very stressful, I think.
Oh, stress.
Like health documents. I had to research like what I had to do for the visa, the flight. You also need to do research on the university you want to go to, if they have accommodation. So much. Like I had to do an English test, make sure the English test was the correct one, because there's so many to choose from.
What happened when you came to Japan?
Nobody spoke English.
My visa application had some delays because I used a picture that was 20 days too old, which is stupid, but that's very Japanese too.
I think I worked 2 weeks like fully on the application for just a COE, and it was a lot of work. I had to really like pull all the strings, visit all the teachers to get the documents. I had to figure out everything myself, which was kind of stressful and a lot of work.
I have to do it on paper.
You have to do it on paper?
Nothing online. It's just
No! Oh my god. Yeah, just like pressing send and like the website loading, I was like, oh my god, like I was freaking out. I'll never forget that moment, it was so stressful.
Having to wait, the wait is the worst. I mean, just get your shit in order, definitely. Read everything 3 times before you submit your document, because once it's submitted, if anything's wrong, then you have to do the entire process again, and it has to go quicker because you have less time.
Yeah, but it's worth the effort. So. I didn't do it, but start studying the basics of Japanese, like katakana and hiragana. You have to do it. Like you will not survive Japan without Japanese. It's just not gonna happen. You will crumble and fall and die. Keep into consideration that Japan is a very clean and polite country. So if you're a person who's like very loud, I mean, they're not gonna say it like straight to your face, but you should mind your manners, maybe. Have a little reflection moment.
Ik ben ook echt een luid persoon.
Maar nee, komt wel goed.
Komt wel goed, oké.
Ja, als je zeg maar social awareness hebt,
Ja,
dan komt het goed. I mean, het is niet alsof ze je gaan...
Gelyncht, maar...
Nee, maar misschien word je al bekeken, zo weet je wel.
Ja.
Something you absolutely cannot forget, to be respectful of the culture. It's not a place you go to mess shit up. That's what gets you accepted into the society. If you just know all the rules that they have and respect them, then people will automatically like you more.
I think it's also really good to take your documents with you to the airport. Make sure you have everything in one binder. Like I also needed to bring some medication. You need to have like papers to show that you are allowed to take this medication abroad. Try to be as prepared as you can, you know. Where are you going? What's the culture going to be like? What's like socially acceptable behavior and stuff? It just make sure you really take time to prepare. People think that Japan is very strict on academics. Like you have to go to every class and people spend all day studying, but that's not true at all. Most people go to university, like most Japanese people, go to university for the experience and also to have fun before going into the very strict work and office life. I think Dutch universities are harder.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here you actually need to do work. Yeah. Most of the universities are...
Pretty chill.
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
It's pretty chill, bro.
Yeah. The Japanese people will see you as an international student. It might take more time to befriend them because they're kind of intimidated by, you know, having to speak English, if that's one of your goals.
Yeah. But if you want to become friends with Japanese people, you should definitely learn the language. That's...
Yeah, and also take the first step, maybe, to become friends. Like, invite them to go somewhere, because it's not as easy as here. I think a lot of people feel like the Japanese are more closed off and like not so social and open, but I felt like it was the complete opposite. I never made so many friends. People really wanted to talk to me. Even strangers on the street would be like, oh, where are you from? Be super interested and nice. At least for me, I didn't expect that. I had such a big reverse culture shock. I think that's what it's called, right? I was so shocked at how dirty this country is. Also, people are really loud and rude and just mean, I feel like. In Japan, you get super used to like bowing to everyone and like being respectful, and I really could not stop doing it when I came back, and I would just like do a bow to everyone. Like I would cross the street and a car would stop for me and I would be like, oh, and it's so crazy. I think it really, you get so used to it, doing it. It's hard to stop. Ik was toen ik in Duitsland toen ik terugkwam en toen ging ik in het Japans praten.
Oh lol.
In plaats van jawohl, zei ik hi, hi. Ik voelde me echt zo koekhuis, jongen. Echt zo stom is dat. Oh.
And then my last point, enjoy it. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm serious about it. It can be incredibly overwhelming, as I already told you. If you're me, you're really stressing out over all of the paperwork that you have to file in, and you're incredibly anxious about whether everything will actually come together in the end. That's okay. In conclusion, first and foremost, probably the reason why you want to go here is because you want to have fun, right? So keep that in mind. If you're doing something that is absolutely not fun and not necessary, then just don't do it. But I would recommend putting in the extra mile and trying to learn Japanese, because you'll probably understand that if you don't speak English, that it'd be really nice if the person you're talking to does speak your language. So sit back, enjoy, and don't stress out too much. That's pretty much it. Goodbye.